Welcome to Trading Lounge and the Commodities Report, starting with the 10-year yields here. As you may know, we've been looking all of this here as wave 4 correction. We're looking for a move to the upside. The only thing that I wasn't quite sure about is this wave 4 here, because there was a good case for having 5 waves down here. I suppose there's a good case too for putting wave 4 over here actually as an A and a B and a C wave here if we make a new high here for that, and that would give us another little move up here. So I'll give that some thought as well. Yeah, if we do make a new move up here, then if we make a move above the top here, then I'll need to put wave 4 here, or we'll put this wave 4 here. We'll run both of those counts. But the bottom line is we need to make, well, technically not even, I mean, we should make a new high above here, you know. The other thing is we're seeing a stronger US dollar, so that can also influence this move to the upside as well. The only other caveat that I've got here is that and I have mentioned it once before, is this 1 and 2 here and 3, 4, 5 to make this wave 5 up here. It could be possible to put this wave 1 over to here somewhere and then look at this as wave 2 over here to pull back, so a larger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll go back and compare other structures and see what would have the right look and feel about the markets at that point. But it's just something worth noting here anyway. But the short term is that, I mean, it does look a bit impulsive here, but I'll just wait a little bit. We may get one more move down here based on that 5-wave structure. But basically, at the end of the day, the takeaway is that we need to go higher for these government yields, these bond yields here. So I wanted to also have a look at the bonds here as well. This is just the TLT here, the 20 years, so it's the fair way out. But I've always just had this, you may have seen this chart before. I don't really talk about it too much, but sometimes I just leave it there as the last chart, so folks can have a bit of a look at it. But we've had that wave 4 here for quite a long time, and we're starting to see that breach down now. And as you're fully aware, Fitch Ratings, one of the big 3 credit rating agencies in the US, with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, have downgraded the bonds from a AAA to AA plus, I think it was. I have to double check, but yeah, I mean, as far as Pete's patterns are concerned, and the Elliott count here is that yeah, we should be coming down further. You know, we should be for this particular market anyway. I don't look at the junk bonds and all those sort of things, but you know, there are, as I was talking to my mate in Canada, you know, there's these big companies, you know, how it affects stocks and so on. These big companies have a lot of cash, like Apple, on board, but in a lot of cases, and I don't know this for sure, but you know, it's pretty stock standard stuff to not use your cash and use debt instead, because it's deductible and all of those sorts of things. So you know, where they go to get those funds, they will be a little bit different, and some may sell their corporate bonds, and some other, you know, they do all sorts of things, I guess. But anyway, as far as this is concerned, we're sort of looking further down here for this, and wave 4s can get complicated, so this may dance sideways here further and do all sorts of weird things, you know, because we do have this little leg here, so it could come down, you know, 50-60% and then have another leg back up, because it hasn't really moved from to the 38.2% is still over here, so it's still possible to have this push up here for this, you know. A move down and then push up and then down, you know. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But I'm just going to resting back on his perch over there for the time being. The other thing that we could look at too is, you know, from the low to the high here, the 61.8%. And what I would be more interested in is the classic trading levels pattern on the short side here for this. So, you know, as a nice clean pattern, we would look at this. So this would be, you know, the level here. So to come through, which is doing now, to go back and check it, you know. I mean, obviously it can come back above the level as well. So it may do something like this and then go down, but we'll keep a bit of an eye, on that. Yeah, but you can see here that, you know, it's come down, bounced back and gone through. It's sort of, it hasn't dropped enough here and hasn't retested. It hasn't locked that 100 in as the resistance yet. And if it does that, then we can call this down to 90 or you know, 85, something in that sort of space for that. But I just thought we'd have a bit of a look at that. And we're just looking at the dollar, and our ladies in the Philippines didn't load the Forex chart up last night. I'm not quite sure why. I've lost that chart now for that. I can get it back. Let me just check here for a moment. I need to see all that stuff. Okay, I found it. So I don't know why the girls didn't upload the Forex charts for yesterday. So apologies about that. But anyway, what I wanted to look at here, this is Malik's chart, and he's still looking at this as wave 2 up here for the US dollar, and wave 1 and 2, and 1 here with the WXY coming into this space here where this trend line is here. So that's one way to look at the situation. The other way we talked about, yesterday we talked about a bigger move to the upside. And there's a couple of ways that we could view this. And this one here would be putting wave 1 here with an A wave here, a B wave coming down here, so an expanded flat really in a way, and then 5 waves moving back up to the top of the A wave here, or just above that for this wave 2. That's a possibility. The other possibility is really just putting wave 4 over here and putting wave 5 over here, which is a bit of a long shot, but it's sort of okay as well. And then that would bring wave 1 over here. So the move up here would just be the A wave when we get up here, and then the B wave back and the C wave. So we've mentioned this one yesterday as well. So there's a couple of things here I've got to keep my eye on for a moment with this, and we'll see. And the other thing I want to mention too is if I just go from the daily chart to the an intraday chart at two clicks here. I just wanted to talk about counting this up here, because on the futures market, this is the low. On the cash market, that's the low. So there's 2 different ways of viewing this as well. So it doesn't really do a lot of damage at this point, but it can change the count a little bit. So I was thinking, just in counting this up here, if we were looking higher, you know, if we're looking high moving up here as a C wave up here, that would play out like this. And one of the other reasons I was looking at this going up as a C wave here, I just wanted to bring this chart across here. This is the Invesco US dollar index fund, and in this case, if we viewed this down here, it didn't really come as low, it held up quite high here. So if we viewed this as wave 1 here, and then an A wave here, and this would have to play out as a WXY, and as a wave B, and then 5 waves up here for this, you know, and this length here would be roughly the same length as wave A here for this, and I've just taken this trend line and moved it up here, so it can come up to the 29 in this particular instance here, but you can get some bearings on that from these particular old highs over here if you're using the DXY chart. So yeah, so this is why one of the reasons I was looking for the 5-wave move up into that space. So this will be that 5-wave move up here. So we'll just see how it goes. I don't really know, but the important thing here is that if it is going to climb higher, then it's going to push all the gold stocks down further. That's the bottom line, really. So we'll see how it goes. The trends here are getting a little bit shorter too, which is one thing. It may not play out like that. So we've got some length here, we've got some smaller length here, and we've got smaller lengths here coming into play. But as far as 1, 2 here, and 3, 4, 5 up here for the C, and the other count, of course, up here would just be the A wave up at this point, and then we would come back for a B wave over here and that sort of thing. So that's doable as well. They're both they're both reasonably valid, but I like this one here better. So we'll just watch this climb. It could still move up here as some sort of WXY and roll over, but it's looking a little bit slim at this point for that. So we'll keep an eye on that, see how that plays out. So I'm just going to move that over here. So then we move over. Oh, actually, what I wanted to do for the $2 is I just wanted to look at it in a more bullish light as well. So I wanted to do that using the volume. So I wanted to use this charting program here. So this is a weekly chart here, and the way to read volume is that, well, it kind of makes sense that you need increasing volume to have a trend. Like, so here you can see the trend move up here, and you can see increasing volume here, right? So, and that doesn't matter if it's an uptrend or a downtrend, whatever trend it is going in any particular direction, it needs fuel, it needs volume in that particular direction. So basically all corrections are on lower volume. So this is a weekly chart. It's a bit hard to see it here, but you can see that there is a lot lower volume here. So another way to see it, I find it quite easy to go into a larger time frame here, and then you can see that the market moved up here and it had increasing volume. In just generally speaking, we can even decipher that further, but this move down through here has got diminishing volume in here. So wave 1 can be like that. I know that from the upside, so I need to be a little bit cautious about this. But at the same time, what I was sort of thinking is that any move that we have up here, let's just keep an eye on the volume at that point. That's what we're going to do at this point. So we could go out a little bit further here, by the way, just to make it a bit easier and just to show you sort of some tricks of the trade, so to speak. So the move down through here has been on, this is quarterly charts here, has been on less volume through here. So it just makes it a little bit clearer, doesn't it? You know, so if we're going to see any sort of significant rally here, we want to be able to see it on increasing volume. So we're going to track this. This is on the futures market. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that in there. That's going to help us sort of solve the problem a little bit. So over to the gold market. Excuse me. My thing has been with the US spot gold here is that we've had wave 1, 2, and 3 up here, and it was looking all sort of positive and good, but we couldn't turn positive unless we had 5 waves up here, and we don't want this to overlap down on top of wave 1 here. A little bit sort of okay, I guess, but this is, as a wave 4 here, is getting a little bit big, you know, for the size of wave 2 here. And because we've got this here as an ABC pattern here, then I could put this as an A wave here and a B wave here and a C wave here for that. So I could do that, but it's more likely going to be, because this leg here is in 3 waves, then I need to also look at this as a WXY over here, or even a triangle, but I can't really get the triangle out of this one here. So it's probably a W down to here, an X here, then an ABC here for this here to finish off. If that's indeed going to finish off there, you know. So we'll just see, I'll just keep an eye on this for a moment, but as I've mentioned before, this would be an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave up here instead of a wave 3. And that means that we would need to look at this top a little bit differently. We could bring this C wave down to here and the B wave to here, and then unfortunately would need wave 1 here, and this would be wave 2 here if it was going to be bearish, and this would be wave 1 here and 2 here in this case, and then this would be wave 1 here and 2 here for this. So there is a bearish pattern that's emerging here that we need to be mindful of. So with gold stocks, I can just use, we did have a look at lots of gold stocks the other day, and we will do that again next week. We'll look at all those gold stocks again, but I did just want to give you a bit of an idea using Newcrest Mining, which is one of the probably, I don't know, 3rd or 4th biggest mining companies around. So if we were going to look at more of a bearish picture here for this, then we could look at this as the top there, and the 50% to the 61.8% is here for this. So it's quite possible that we could end up like this here, and here we'll look at this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So this would be wave 1 here with 2 here, and then a 3, 4, 5 to finish off here. We've still got our impulse wave over here, so that's good. But yeah, so I'm just pointing out the unfortunate, you know, don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but this would be the case if the US dollar was going to be pushing up at this point. And we can look at all those gold stocks again. We'll do at least one video next week just really on mostly gold stocks. Yeah, so it could be this particular pattern here for this, you know, that's if that dollar pushes up, that's the sort of pressure we're on here. So to look at this here on a daily chart like I just did with Newcrest Mining, if I go to the daily chart here, then it would look like this here. So we have our impulse wave to the upside. So we've been looking at this as wave 2. There was a good case for that, but there's also a good case for looking at this as an A wave, because we've only got 3 waves up here now, and then we'd be looking down here for a wave 2 to come into play here, unfortunately. So yeah, look, it may not be the case. I'm just giving the bad news before it happens, you know, because what's actually happening here is that it is breaking down a little bit. It's not totally broken down, and it can still be bullish. It can still be a wave 4. I'm not poo-pooing the situation, so to speak, but that US dollar is pushing up. We'll keep an eye on the volume on that as well for the markets, for the dollar. And so that means we come over to GDX. The same thing applies here. We can view this as an A and a B and a C up here. If we're going to continue to look at it as wave 1 here, then we're going to have to look at it as a WXY, because we've got 5, 3, 5 here, and this push up here is an ABC pattern. And that means that down here we also need to look at this as an A and a B and a C pattern here as well. So if it does lock under here, like gets locked under here and drops under this low here, then we'll be looking at it as more of a bearish pattern. That would be the last, you know, that's the last call at the pub, at the bar, you know, at that point. And this type of pattern to finish off here, this little bump and drop here that we'd also had with US spot gold, we can drag that over to silver as well. So silver here, we've had this as an ABC pattern here, and it does look like we've got some sort of corrective wave up here, and it's looking a little bit impulsive here. So in a way, it would be the same as the others. It would be something like this here. And then wave 4 could be brought over here. In this case, we can look at it as an A, B, C, Can't go D and E here, can we? I'd have to go this way with it, I guess. I could go that way with it, so we could shrink it into this situation here as a triangle pattern, and then put the D here. I don't know. I'm just sort of like, playing the field here a little bit on this. Like I said, the whole thing hasn't broken down just yet with all of this, so we'll just chill, and we'll just be patient and wait for it. I'm putting the stop to break even here. I'm not going to let this turn into any losses. But I don't want to panic. I just want to be sort of on point with it all. But things are getting a little bit, this is a wave 4 here. It's really quite big compared to this wave 1 over here for this. So we can view this as a wave C up here as well. So it'll probably take 2 or 3 sessions unless anything dramatic happens. If it sort of keeps traveling sideways with a few ups and downs here, then we'll just need to be patient. And if something happens out of left field, either pushes up or pushes down, well, then we'll be either bullish or bearish on that. So we're just kind of in no man's land at the moment, unfortunately, with these things. So this is the metals and mining thing here. We keep a bit of an eye on this, and there's 2 ways to count this. First of all, from this low here, we've got a corrective pattern here. I suppose we could look at it as wave 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 over here, but it's not really it's probably not the right way to look at it, but it's possible. It's more viable that we're still traveling sideways through all this. And it can be viewed as a W, X, and Y over here, with basically an ABC coming down to here, or we can look at it as a triangle pattern over here as well, as an A, B, C, D, and an E over here, and then push up from that point. So if this is going to push up here, then you're going to see a lot of other markets do the same in a way, especially the commodities are going to be on the same path as well. So this needs to creep higher. This will be up at 55 to 58 here, probably in that space there for this. And you're going to see that sort of play out with uranium stocks and other markets. They're going to also have got the ability to push up and then come down here. They've got those sorts of patterns. So that's really what I'm sort of seeing with these guys. So copper could do the same. Lithium could also rally as well. Let's just have a little look at lithium. Just bear with me for a second here. I did look at that before. For my lithium stock, I can look at the futures and all the rest of it, but then, I don't know, it just doesn't really do much for me. And then if I look at the little Australian stocks or Canadian stocks on the lithium side, they're ripe for takeovers and all those sorts of things. So anyway, here for this is this is a $150 billion company, Chinese, and it's quite big, and we could just see that it's going down. We could probably put wave 3 and wave 5 of 3 in here at the moment. It's not the best. Let me just have a closer look. It's not the best looking 5 waves here, I'd imagine, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but there's overlap there for that. But the fact that that's gone up there so much makes me think, well, as this wave 4 started here, so anyway, we'll just keep chilling, but I still think there's another leg down, one more leg to go in here for this as well, for the lithium here. So so when you've got your PBLs and ACDCs and all of those guys, they'll be under pressure as well. So the lithium is that copper here. Okay, what was I talking about here? We're on a monthly chart for the futures here, copper futures. I guess what I was pointing out here is that you see how this moved up here? The market moved up, but it was kind of on lower volume here on this monthly chart. So that's divergence. You'll see that in some of your indicators. So when you see that sort of happen, that it's not going to go far. There's a problem there. And this is kind of what we're seeing in over here as well. I don't know if we push up here a little bit further and then push down, or we just push down straight from this point here. I'm just trying to get that working, straight down from you know, from here somewhere and all of that. But I'm not seeing any increased volume here push this, you know, pushing this up through here, you know. And we've talked about this a few times as well. Don't have all the things for this over here, but basically from the LME copper here would have 1, 2, 3 here, and then I'm looking at this as an A, B, C, D, and E across here. I did explain that last time, rather than looking at this as 1 and 2. So this top here can be in here, right? I don't think it's the case. I think that this is actually a wave 1 up here with a wave 2 pullback to come in here, and then we're going up for 3, 4, 5 up here for copper. But it's just not giving me the setup at the moment. All of this in here is like a B wave in here for this, you know. So that's, you know, there's no volume confirming that we're going to be pushing up here at the moment. So in the short term, we can move up, but the trend is not there. So with the BHPs of the world and all of those guys, you'd need to kind of start protecting them a little bit, I think. Perhaps when I do the gold stocks next week, we'll also have a look at some of the Australian and maybe some of the other iron ore stocks too in Brazil and so on. But each country's got their own little thing going on. I mean, Brazil's got such a strong deal going on with China at the moment. But if the US dollar pushes up, then there won't be any replenishing of stockpiles as such. I also wanted to give a bearish count. We've been looking at the bullish count with iron ore, but I also want to go back to a bearish count today, and not to say that it's true or anything of those natures, but when we look at iron ore in this particular pattern here with say Singapore that's traded in US dollars, then this move down here, this sort of 5-wave move here, comes down and takes the low out here of this one here. So it does make a nice, on say Singapore exchange, on the seaborne one, it comes down as a nice little ABC here, and then we can look at this as wave 1 here and back for wave 2 here and up for wave 1 here and back for wave 2. But I wanted to come back to this Chinese one here and just sort of go back over this as a bearish pattern, which would be the A wave here, and then an A, B, and C here for the B wave here. We could probably get a triangle pattern out of this as well by just having this A wave here, and then the B wave could also be a triangle with an A, B, C, D, and E here, and put the B wave over here for this. So there's a couple of different ways to look at it. And if that was the case, then we'd have just a quick 5 waves down here and so on. But if I put that here, that does bring in wave 1 here and 2 here and 3, 4, 5 to make wave C over here. Is that going to be the case? I don't know, but I want to put it out there, and then we can just see how it goes. And one way of actually understanding if this market is going to be bullish or bearish is with the 800 here. So with the 800 here, coming up here and banging its head against here and doing all this sort of stuff is normal. Sometimes it's sort of simple. Sometimes it's more complex, like this over here. You know, but over here, really, what's happened is that it never really found support over here. Did it end up dropping through and dropping down? So there's different ways to sort of view it. Obviously, it's also sort of working into that number a little bit too. You could say in a sort of an odd sort of way, it becomes sort of the balance line through this whole palaver here. So we're going to see more of that. So what I'm sort of saying here is that, are we going to see this drop away from the 800 here? Or are we going to see it sort of pick up here and do something here? Because if we do get another high in here, then we'll probably be on the bullish side of it. But if it can't recover, then we'll, in the short term here, then we're going to see further downside here. And obviously this is going to affect the other markets, you know, the Rios, the FMGs and so on. And there's a reasonable count up here for 1 and 2 here, and 3, 4, 5 up here for the A wave, the B wave, the C wave is a little bit pokey and a bit short and all the rest of it. But if if you know, it's got this support in here. So what we could say is we could just give it some time here. But if this support became the resistance here by pushing up, by having the first low below the level here and then dropping down through it that way, then we know that iron ore's it's got some problems at this point, you know. And we know that China has got some issues as well. You know, I mean, there's lots of people around, as I mentioned before. I mean, you can watch news people talk about things, but I like to sort of see a bit more homegrown kind of video content on speaking to the people on the docks and, you know, the containers and where they're being stacked up. And, you know, it's a pretty sort of, you know, the ports are looking like some of those Chinese empty cities at the moment. So that's the sort of reality. And, you know, I don't know what the shipping index is at the moment, you know, how many ships are on the water. That's always a tell sign as well. But anyway, sorry for rambling on, but that's that. So yeah, so the metals market a lot of the metals can still push up higher and then roll over. Yeah, so we'll just see how that plays out a bit. Just shoot the breeze a bit. So over to the energy sector here. So we're pretty much on track here. We're thinking that we've got some sort of A wave, B wave, and C wave up here for this, for crude oil. It doesn't really make the best wave one over here to have more of a bullish market. It's doable to have this as wave 1 and 2 here. You'll just need to look at this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here, then the A, the B, and the C here. It doesn't make a very good C wave anyway. And so what I've just been doing, as I've mentioned before, is what I do know is that from this low, we've been counting up 5 waves up here, and we're nearly at the top here. And we talked yesterday and the day before and all the rest sort of having wave 1 and 2 here, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for third wave, fourth wave, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to push up a bit further up here up here as well into this, probably the 8-3 at that point. And then that's all I know really. It's possible to have this 5 waves here, quite close to the low here, but doesn't quite breach it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Yes, there's overlap here, I know that. And then 3 waves here. So it's possible to do that. If that is the case of 1 and 2 here, then we're going to have 3 and 4 over here and 5 up here. So I won't know that until this tops out here and pulls back at this point. And then we can just mull that over and see if we can trade this leg up through here. Once it gets to this point, then we'll have to rinse and repeat as well. Will this be wave 1 over here for this and wave 2 over here for this? And we know the Saudis have teamed up with the Russians in cutting supply, rather than, you know, their supply reserves are, you know, up to 2 billion barrels a day that they can, you know, put out into the market, but they're reducing it. So they're taking the side of the, well, they're going to walk a delicate line everywhere in Saudi, don't they? There was a really good documentary put out the other day on Saudi and the fine line that they have to tread between all the characters in the play, in the drama, in their environment, but it's all very fragile, much more fragile than I thought it was. So anyway, they need to make more money to, you know, sustain, to create their own environment. You know, everybody's on welfare in that particular in that state. They've got to keep all the Sunnis happy and all the rest of it. And it's a very fine line, and they need money. So treading the line between security from the US and trying to achieve higher prices in line with the Russians is tricky business. But yeah, all that said and done, we're going to be really in a big sideways pattern from where the US are buying it down here at this price. But, you know, I mean, between the US, the Saudis and the Russians, they're the 3 biggest suppliers, and the US are depending less and less on Saudi for their own oil. But even so, the US will get their own supplies at this particular price. So that's kind of the floor in the market. And they'll keep it under sort of 100. So I just sort of see, the market traveling sideways in this range over here, in one way or another, in this range here for quite some time. But yeah, for trading and on the intraday basis here, we're not calling in another long trade. And once this tops here, we'll just allow this to play out here, and then we'll do our best to trade this up here, and then we have to wait again. So, but it does look quite powerful. It's sort of stretching along there, isn't it? But we'll see. It should top out around the 83 mark here for that. And then we come over to the natural gas here. And so in a bit of a nutshell, we've had our little 5 waves up here for wave 1 or wave C. But as wave C here, we would have to look at this as being 5 waves down of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, but this is a real big overlap from this tops here, so it counts better as a corrective pattern. So I've had it as wave 2, doesn't have to be. Our 5 waves up in the next section here, as we've talked about often, is 1 and 2, and going up from 2 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the third wave. We had a nice 4th wave. The 5th wave was very flimsy and probably, not that crash hot, but we'll take it for the time being. Then we were looking for an ABC back through here that hasn't really panned out either. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. We'll look at this as the A wave now. And then we talked yesterday about looking at this because it's hard to look at that as an impulse wave to the upside, isn't it? You'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with overlap there too. Better to count as an ABC for the A wave, the B wave, and the C wave here for the B wave. And then here, if we're going to look at that as a B wave here, then wave 1 here and wave 2 makes sense, and wave 3 is quite good looking here with a nice long leg here. That would bring wave 4 in over here, and we'll still need one more move to the downside. So we'll see what this looks like tomorrow as a wave 2 here. It may not be, the case as such. So when we go to our, 50k here for the bigger picture, just to have a look at this again. So what we were looking at here is we had those 5 waves up here. So it's quite possible to bring that wave C down to here and have this wave 4 sitting on top there. So we've got some sort of A, B, and C wave sitting on the top here. But like I said, we're not getting a very good impulse wave down here. I mean, it's got overlapping things. Maybe it's not a big deal that it's overlapping, and we are going to come down further on that. But I have been looking at this little move up here as wave 1 and 2 here. It's gotten a little bit complicated, but I'll stay with it until the bitter end, the bittersweet end. So I could see there's different ways to count all of this. I could put this as an ABC pattern over here and put the A wave here, and we get a more complicated B wave over here, and then we get our C wave over here. There's a lot that can happen here, and yeah, there's just different ways to view it. I don't know the best way to look at it. But if this finishes off here and we can still use this as 1 and 2 here, and we start seeing it move up here in the right way, well, then we're going to build into it. It's as simple as that. So the bigger pattern can play out in different ways. So this count that I've got here may or may not be right, and your count could be right, or somebody else's could. I can see that it can be counted in other ways. That's what I can see, and we acknowledge that, and we acknowledge that we can be wrong, and I kind of don't sort of really care because I can see all the different things. But if we do get one more little move down here, and then we get a little impulse wave here, and then we get a pullback here, well, then we're going to be going long in that pullback to look for any sort of move to the upside here. I can see that it's got good support. I can see that this has got overlapping structures here. So it could be corrective. It could be impulsive, but looks better as a corrective pattern. The move up here as wave 1 is pretty damn flimsy as well. Wave 2 is getting pretty ugly as well. So none of it's a good look. But we'll hang in there. As long as that support there at the $2.50 is there, which you can see that it's got meaning, we'll just allow it to play out. We'll try to stay away from the tiers and pick up the pieces and run with it. The stochastics is lining up quite nicely, so we'll see how it plays out, but there's nothing to do today, so I'll leave it all at that. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.